Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Trees and Terror with Ade and Joe. We're glad to have you here once more. Uh, and I think if you haven't listened to our first episode, it's live on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast. We don't have a video of that, so yeah, stick with the audio on that one. But yeah, I think for this one, you see what we look like, and it's nice to have you here once more. So, and again, if you're listening on audio, you can always catch this on YouTube for the video version. So, today we have four different topics to kind of like just ramble over and maybe vent as the case may be. And so there's been like a bunch of different incidents recently regarding crypto kidnaps, which generally people call wrench attacks. For some reason, I don't know why. I don't think my English vocabulary is that big to understand, but
I
I
think
think,
uh,
yeah.
I think I know it. I'll interject here. Yeah, it's because you can get someone's password or create a security breach with no more than a $5 wrench, because you can
Oh,
do it's a physical attack on the person to get access to their holdings. So
yeah.
that's why it's called a wrench attack. Yeah.
Wow, okay, nice, nice. So yeah, we're going to be discussing range attacks. We will also talk about your one pay, the Cambodian based service. We'll talk about why Coinbase is always at the center of some crypto scams or some crypto incidents. We would also talk about that. And I think lastly, we would also talk about AIP 7702, the Pectra upgrade. This is going to be a fun and interesting episode. So, yeah, listen in. I think just to give a bit of background to what um, has been happening, I think since somewhere around last year, there has been this incident. I think one of the most publicized one last year was the Canadian WandaFi CEO that was abducted in Toronto, I believe, and then there was like an undisclosed amount of ransom that was paid, and then earlier this year there was Ledger co-founder in
hmm
France, and then there was Premium CEO family member also sometime in May, and very very recently also still in May, there was like a New York crypto dude that was sort of like uh I don't even know if that is like a kidnapping because it was like in his own apartment and then they kind of just uh
Tortured him. Yeah.
tortured him here for like almost 2 weeks. I think it's very,
Yeah.
very absurd, weird, and all of the bad words that comes around that. But I think prior to that, I've always been hearing about some of these crypto kidnappings, majorly in Southeast Asia, of maybe like a Chinese guy that is based in Philippines or a Chinese guy that is based in Myanmar and the likes. But I think so far right now we're seeing more of it in the West. What do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, I think it's good to be careful of like how much more we're seeing these are certainly like these are edge cases, and um, you could probably count how many there are on your two hands. Maybe there's a little more than that, but the ones that are making the news at least. So it's good to preface that because you do read it, and um, one of the things I was reading is not to just blow it out of water, and everyone in the industry needs to hire their own personal bodyguard.
True.
uh, but nonetheless, it is concerning and happening to people who have prominent positions in the industry, and not just them, but also their family members, which is
Yes.
pretty disturbing. I mean, that video that was a viral, at least here in the crypto security industry, the one in France where
Yeah.
believe it was like the daughter of a executive and her husband being kidnapped. And yeah, it's pretty disturbing to see. Fortunately, that they weren't kidnapped, and some good bystanders fought off
Yeah.
the the, the criminals. But yeah, it is seems to be happening here in, I guess, as you say, Western places. Some good news is that in some of these high profile events that we've mentioned, they have caught the
Hmm,
perpetrators.
true.
I believe the ones in, like the one I was just mentioning in Paris, seems to be a Moroccan gang of some nature, French Moroccan gang. One of the nationals was arrested in Morocco due to the help of the French Moroccan um, uh, cooperation between the authorities.
Yes.
Tends to be these younger, it was about a 24-year-old French Moroccan person. So good news there. There's also some good news in this New York case that we mentioned where, yeah, I don't know if it's called a kidnapping when you're kept in your own apartment, but
Yeah.
it was apparently the story there is this guy knew someone who was ahead of a hedge fund, a crypto hedge fund, and they were business partners, I believe, to some degree. And another guy got involved, and they, yeah, basically held him hostage in his own apartment and tortured him to some degree, like tied him down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how expletive we should go into it, but I don't know. They, hit him on the head and this and that. Fortunately, he was able to get away. I think the story was he finally told him his keys were in some laptop somewhere, so they left to go find it, and he was able to get out and apparently ran down the street and found an offer standing by. The perpetrator there also got caught, so
Yes.
good news there. But yeah, nonetheless, it's a thing. I read something that I thought kind of resonated was, yeah, if you're going to hold your own assets and your own private keys and be your own bank, you could get broken into just like any other bank can. So these are sort of the bank robberies of your personal crypto. So
Yeah.
let's see where that develops too. I mean, yeah, let's see. I don't know if there's like a high ceiling for that because, um, yeah, it's good news that people are getting caught in this sort of thing. But yeah, something certainly to be aware of. Um, yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Ed.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a follow-up question because I don't see it stopping, in my opinion, and I don't think it's going to be as um kind of like occurring almost every week kind of thing. I don't expect that. But at the same time, I think the issue with attacks and risk is that risk would always be there, but what exactly is the mitigations are put in place? I think I saw recently Coinbase is sort of like hiring head of physical security, or maybe it was in news that like their CEO sort of like trying to um hire some physical security and all of those stuff. But I think, yeah, there are certain people who can actually afford some of those things. Yeah, based on what they do, and their family members, they can actually provide some of those physical security apparatus for also. But I think generally for majority of people in the ecosystem, that is not going to be the case. And what are the things that you think? For me, I kind of feel one of the issue, not an issue, but I think there is always going to be the need for improving awareness around security generally when it comes to crypto, and not just only for you who owns the assets, but also for your family members, because a bunch of times, even in Web2 space, the issue around getting hacked is not necessarily the target is usually the first person you encounter, or be
Hmm.
that would be the weak points. It's most likely going to be someone that knows the main target, or
Yeah,
maybe someone in the ecosystem that's one way or the other there will be a social engineering act, and then that would end up with the main targets. Because like generally people won't say your family members, there's a limit to how much you can protect, but at the same time, I think putting in the awareness that security, regardless of wherever you are, wherever you are based, is very paramount. I think that is one of the key takeaways for me in these cases that we've seen so far. And it's not just only for you as the crypto bro or crypto sis or crypto guy. It is also to kind of like let your family members know that. certain things like these are happening within our ecosystem. I should be aware. But what's your take on like mitigating factors?
Yeah, obviously you want to let people know and make them aware. Mitigating it's tough to do if it's, you're bringing in the physical world and it's not just strictly digital. Um, it does kind of bring into question, is it really all worth it? I can imagine like some of these really high executives who potentially have keys to large amounts
Mm,
of
yeah.
crypto may I don't know. If I was in their shoes, I'd be kind of asking myself, is this really worth it? Like, I don't know. I'm bringing my family into a threatening situation. I'm not sure anything is worth that. It is it is concerning in that regard. Um, maybe I'm wrong. My first instinct is, like I said, I don't see it affecting a ton of people, but maybe I'm wrong on
Hmm.
that. Maybe this could snowball into a bigger thing for, just the average person who's got, I don't know, just a few 10,000, something like this, because you're thinking now that all these are people with millions and millions of dollars in crypto. But yeah, if you travel to maybe a poorer region of the world, and that's, that $10,000 is a lot of money to someone worth
Yeah.
committing violence on you, then maybe you should take some precautions and make sure your social media is edited and you don't have like some major profile, maybe not
Yeah.
announcing to the world. I mean, there's issues with some, going down. I think I heard someone recently on a podcast going to Argentina and like they didn't want to go to this like ETH or crypto conference because there have been
Yeah.
issues in the past where they were
Yeah.
kidnapping the speakers and this sort of thing. So yeah, it's something out there. Mitigating the, I'm not a former bodyguard of any nature, anything like this. So I'm maybe not the best person to ask, but yeah, it's a bit concerning.
Yeah. I think just to kind of close off on this one, I think the fact still remains that uh, not everything should be done out of proportion because, like, let's remove the CEOs out of the equation, the executives out of the equation. Like, generally, there is this bragging right sort of that exists within crypto that's you have to kind of like show how much you have and then a screenshots of like your wallet balance. I think, yeah, obviously I can't speak to how someone should live their life, but I think these are some of the things that sort of like raises some of these issues. Like, and yeah, I think the all need of having a bit of sanity around what your social media profile looks like. It's something to actually think about. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I think let's quickly kind of talk about some other stuffs. A lot of stuffs that have been happening within the ecosystem. I think one major one is also the Hue one. I don't know if I'm getting the pronunciation right. It has a whole lot of different pronunciations to different people. But yeah, Huione Guarantee. And just a bit of background around why we are discussing this. Huione Guarantee to me, I've known about it for quite a while now and recently, on the 1st of May, to be precise, FinCEN sort of put out a proposal to rule um, the service as primary money laundering concern, which essentially would put them in high risk, almost equal to a sanctioned entity, but not necessarily sanctioned. And I think because of that, the company started sort of like I won't say deleting, but reducing their online presence, even their physical presence by number one, removing billboards that they have around some of the offices, cleaning up some other stores. Then a couple of weeks later, Telegram sort of like shuts down some of their um, channels. Uh, but I don't think that is where the story ends. What's your take?
Yeah, this is yeah, kind of highlighting that region of the world, particularly China and China's speaking customers. So maybe just to clarify for folks who don't know, Huione, yeah, I'm not good at that either, but with the name, they were located in Cambodia and I think primarily serving Chinese-based customers because it was Chinese language
Yeah.
marketplace, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, fortunately, FinCEN, U.S. regulator, marked them for, or what would be the proper word? You said not sanctioned, but
Yeah,
um,
primary money
um,
laundering concern.
yeah, primary money laundering concerns. So yeah, all regulatory institutions, of course, certainly U.S. based, and then most of the world as well would not associate with who won. However, they seem to have future-proofed themselves to some degree and have highlighted this sort of whack-a-mole of these, particularly like this region of the world and these sort of industrial style or industrial grade scam sort of places and money laundering places. Um, and yeah, so it's speculated that they aren't fully out of business, if hardly hurt at all. And it does bring into question what regulators like FinCEN can really do in such a situation and if it has much of an effect on them.
Yeah,
And Telegram is a really versatile tool that has a lot of anonymity associated with it, and people can use it in these sort of money laundering organizations quite well. It's hard to crack down on it. So that's kind of my big takeaway. It's a bit murky, and we will likely see taking down these money laundering activities in this region of the world to be difficult. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I think also just to point out certain things also which one of the reasons, right, one of the major reasons why they get um well, there was that proposal was number one, like there was a bunch of pig butchering activities that is related to the platform itself. And apart from pig butchering being a major issue, some of the PRK funds, stolen funds ends up getting washed on some of those their Telegram channels. And it's just the sheer number of it. I can't remember the figures precisely, but it's obviously in billions. And I think some last year also, I was sort of like doing a bit of research on them, and I discovered they actually created their own stable coin, which they kind of call
Yep.
USDH, I think. Yeah, which
Yeah,
essentially is
exactly.
like, and I think one of the major marketing tagline of that stable coin is that like cannot be frozen by any authority, which is interesting because they understand what they're doing. And I think outside of that, one other thing which I would love to point out also regarding Way1 is that for me, I don't think they've stopped being active. They are still very much present. Maybe some of the channels were taken down by Telegram, because the way the ecosystem works, it is just kind of like a P2P marketplace. There is the U1 guarantee platform itself, where you can create a channel on Telegram, and then for you to verify that you're interacting with the right channel, and you have to go to the U1 site itself, and then you understand that by clicking a link from this U1 guarantee website, it takes you to the specific Telegram channel. Then that is how you know you're actually interacting with the right and verified seller. And then they sell a lot of different things. They sell like AI enhancing solutions for deep fakes.
Hmm.
They kind of like wash funds in different ways by collecting your stable coins or crypto in whatever amount and token, and then giving you cash, or even telling you they'll deposit cash for you in a certain bank. Or it's a full-fledged service. And I think they are not they have FinCEN has done what they can do right now, but I think there's too much to be done, because it's not just only you one, because there are kind of like a bunch of other services like that. There is UbiFood, there is I'm trying to look at my notes. There's UbiFood, there's Shimbi, there is EBPay, there is 988 Pay, and majority of these ones, even though they're not as big as large as you one, the fact remains is like these things exist even in their small pockets. And because of that, I think it's going to be very hard not to crack. But yeah, I think the ecosystem can still survive.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's good to see FinCEN designate them, but there's plenty of other players in the field. And yeah, I think my unsolicited messages on Telegram from young looking, I don't know if they're real girls, maybe slowed down for about 2 days and then it picked
Yeah,
back up. So there is plenty, due to that metric, I think there's still plenty of work to be done. So
exactly.
um, nonetheless, it's good to see like there is a focus there. I think some people maybe think that the authorities aren't focused on what's happening there, but it does seem to be picking up momentum. There's some great people doing a lot of great work. You see a lot of it on LinkedIn now in the cybersecurity, Web3 security industries. Hopefully, this is just the beginning and things will roll on this story. So, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think also just to kind of like cap this off, with the Bybits incidents and majority of the funds also sort of like ending up in a similar sort of like service or the same service, I think it's going to put a lot more pressure, and not just only on FinCEN or the ecosystem itself in trying to find a solution to this, but also the governments of the countries that actually host these services. So
Hmm.
if there is year one with a billboard somewhere in a certain country, and I think that that country now needs to sort of like sit up and understand that we are literally like opening up ourselves to like international sanction at this point, because there's DPRK, there's pig butchering, there's human trafficking, literally everything, and then you're like, I'm the gateway to pass this thing across. So yeah, I think we'll keep in touch on this story and see how it develops.
Definitely. And anyone out there can let us know how to pronounce Huione correctly.
Yeah,
Let us know.
please. Yeah, and I think so. Let's quickly move to our third topic. So far in the news, when it comes to crypto incidents, big blockchain, and the likes, there has been a certain exchange that has always shown up, and not on the receiving side, but more or less like the incidents usually occurs on on that side, and it is not just the exchange itself, because if I'm to count, I can say majority of US exchanges sort of like falls within that category of being the victim, be it from pig butchering or something that's just happened randomly, and then when you're tracing the funds, it's always that the victim is sending the funds from like a US based exchange or service. And but recently, there's been this news around Coinbase and them hiring a specific set of um, staffs from a certain region. And then somewhere along the line, some of the credentials of their, well, not credentials, but kind of like the KYC data and the likes of some of their customers gets leaked. And by so, those customers are now getting socially engineered and they are losing their assets. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully whoever's listening probably knows some of the details of this story, but maybe just to make sure everyone's clear, yeah, I mean, Coinbase was compromised, or some of its employees were compromised, I believe in India mostly, or I think maybe some other places where a bit lower income, easier to bribe, and essentially these employees were bribed to give customer information to hackers. Um, and yeah, that's what happened. And then they tried to hold Coinbase for ransom for up to like $20 million.
Yes.
Kind of like the funny twist to it is Brian Armstrong, the CEO, flipped that on its head a little bit and said if anyone can give information on who the hackers are, that he will reward them with $20 million. So
Yeah.
I think he's been getting some advice from some professional negotiators or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting to think about what this means for the industry and just centralized exchanges. And honestly, as you're talking, it just made me thought that because Coinbase too is now a publicly traded company, and I am wondering what implications that brings to a public
Mm,
traded company because
yeah.
now one of their major focus is to bring value to
Yeah.
shareholders.
Investors. Yeah.
And, and what does that do to security and skipping on security and these sort of things? So maybe we are witnessing what happens if you do skip on security because you don't want to waste resources on it. Your employees might be getting bribed and compromised for customer information. So that's something that I think to look out for, especially as if other exchanges go public or just other companies in general. We just had some big news with Circle
Mm-hmm.
having their IPO. And it will be interesting to see where the integrity and where the resources allocated to security, what's being done there as they become more shareholder profit focused. So that's one thing that, or an idea that just sort of occurred to me. Um, Maybe it's just some good news on the compromise. I mean, not good and not so good. I mean, the hackers can't really do anything just with people's uh, personal information. They do have some pretty um, what would be sensitive personal information like government IDs and passport data and things like this. But what they would, the concern is what they would do here is social engineer the customer into providing their pass keys or sending them crypto or something like this. So
Yeah.
that is the fear. Um, we've seen a lot of really clever social engineering done by hackers, and ultimately, that's kind of the consistent element in a lot of crypto hacks and theft is the social engineering aspect. It's never
Mm-hmm.
really technical.
Yeah.
Um, Fortunately, I mean, Coinbase nipped it in the butt pretty quickly and let everyone know like we would never message you or ask you for information, this and that. Of course, not every. Yeah, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I don't know when this actually happened because like I think prior to that announcement by Coinbase itself, I
Mm,
think there has been different news like oh someone got hacked or like someone lost like 40 million off of Coinbase, and so which sort of brings into the question like was this actually reported on time one, and or was this a case of like okay you know what, everybody's kind of like pointing fingers at us at this point regarding some of our customers being victims to social engineering attacks, like okay you know what, let's just come out and say this is what happened and try to spin the story on its head, because that is what I'm thinking right now because a bunch of
mm,
guys have actually lost funds, and it's not just like a $10,000 here, $20,000. It's like literally in millions.
right.
So
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I no, that's good. I don't know either. I don't think anyone knows. That
Yeah,
is the tricky thing, and maybe they're doing a good job of um, avoiding the transparency on some of those hacks and what may have happened, and if it is directly linked to these these employees being compromised. Um, yeah, that is a bit suspicious. Probably need to do a little more digging into what the
yeah,
real story is on some of those hacks. Because I mean, to be honest with you, like a lot of the press and the release is kind of saying, oh, it's been, maybe Coinbase's PR team is doing a good job with the media of saying, oh, we have it under wraps and this sort of thing. But it sounds like maybe, you smell maybe something a little differently.
yeah. Because and and because one other thing which I sort of like try to figure out with this Coinbase issue, and again, it might be so very, very different from the all data leak stuff because, and just still on the data leak points, when data gets leaked, it can linger on for like years. And nobody uses it, right? Until someone connects one dot somewhere and then tries to like creates this elaborate story that everything checks out to the victims on every single point because they've known so much about you, and it's not easy to kind of like just take a profile and decide like okay you know what, I have to switch things around. Not everybody can change the date of birth, nobody everybody can change their government names and the likes, so it's a hassle to start with, and I think, and then there was the whole conversation around compensation or not compensating the victims, and I think that's just like another story in its own. But I think one thing which I wanted to mention also regarding Coinbase generally is that I know they have like a wallet, they have like a Coinbase wallet, and there have been instances on some of my past investigations that those of those some of those pig butchering activities or actions that occurs is because people would actually get fished from the Coinbase wallet. And
Hmm.
the way the Coinbase wallet is designed is more or less like from a product usability point of view, where like we make it easy for you. It's easy for you to link a Coinbase wallet, which is literally like a wallet you can download online that is not linked to Coinbase as an entity, and then connect it to your entity to your Coinbase service or Coinbase account. It has features where it has a browser function where you can easily type any website on there, even if it's like a
Hmm.
social engineering website, and then you can connect your wallet literally on the app, and then automatically all of those approval phishing scams can easily happen. Majority of them happen through that means. And I was looking at the design of that wallet because, like, yes, it's good for people to have that ease of access to do certain things, but I think there is need for them to sort of like separate what a wallet is versus when you're
Mm,
actually on the exchange, because
right.
to some people it seems more like the wallet is still part of the exchange. So when I'm
Yeah, yeah.
clicking a transaction or approving a transaction, yeah, it's still within Coinbase, not knowing that you're actually like outside of that platform totally. So I think that's also something which I find um a bit concerned about in terms of like them separating, because like for example, an OKX wallet, and this is not me doing comparison, an OKX wallet is so very different from the OKX exchange itself. Like you'll
Yeah,
see the difference proper, right? And then I don't know if Binance has one. I think Binance has one, but I can't remember.
they
But
do.
yeah,
They
so
do. Yeah.
yeah, so those are kind of like, I think there is that blurring of lines between the exchange and the wallets, and it's kind of like, oh, it's one service, you can use this interchangeably, but which is not the case.
No, definitely not. No, it's something a bit tricky for users because yeah, Binance definitely has one as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kraken does and some of
Yeah,
the
they
others.
do now.
But yeah, 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 yeah.
Cracking
So
those now.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I think we're just going to take a short break and then come back to discuss our last conversation. All right, welcome back to this episode on Trace and Thought, Ade and Joe. So, I think the last thing we want to sort of like talk about on this episode is the Pectra upgrade, and that is EIP 7702. For some reason, I always have issues with this codes,
Yeah,
but
there's
like, yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
numbers.
yeah, EIP 7702. And what is the Pectra upgrade? Essentially, it is kind of like making its Ethereum blockchain a bit more user friendly. I think to me that is kind of like the simplest way to put it. And there are a bunch of things that came up with that specific upgrade. There is the smart contract aspect of it. There is users can pay gas with whatever tokens right now, so you don't have to like have Ethereum or Ether rather in your wallet, and then a third
Yeah,
party
that's
can
awesome.
even, yeah, a third party can even pay for your gas, right? And then there is account permissions. You can now have different accounts doing multiple things. And one thing I want to also kind of like highlight also is the fact that this upgrade, although it sort of like cuts across the whole EVM chain right now, with specifically with Ethereum, there are some solutions that have been put in place in the past to sort of like do a bit of this thing, especially with Safe, Gnosis Safe, GNOSIS
Yep.
Safe, yeah.
Gnosis.
So
Yep.
yeah, Gnosis. So Gnosis have been able to do some of those things, and we already have some of these functions even on Tron blockchain, like the account permission situations. Like I think you can actually even pay for gas by some other wallet address on Tron. But yeah, let me. What are the other features of this upgrade that you find interesting?
Yeah, I mean, Pectra was a huge, huge upgrade. I think probably the biggest since the merge. And yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of different things in regards to tracing. It's certainly bringing new elements that will potentially make it more difficult for tracers and investigators. Yeah, so the big thing is batching or sort of combining different transactions into
Yeah.
one and
Mm,
then creating more complexity around that. If you thought tracing was already a bit complex or a bit of a challenge, it just got harder for you,
yeah.
at least on Ethereum. That is, yeah, going to be interesting for all investigators and including the tools in which they use and the
Yes.
providers of those tools. Hopefully, TRM, chain analysis, et cetera, and all those are
Working
making
on
the
it.
upgrades. Yeah, and working
Hmm.
on it, and yeah, as with the investigators. So that's going to be something everyone to focus on. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons is it sort of gives wallet address some functionality that's similar to a smart contract. So that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Actually,
Hmm.
I'll be very curious to see how, like how does that work? Or is like
Yeah.
emitting events? Like, is there more Solidity code involved?
Yeah.
Something to look into. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. The smart control aspect is also very interesting. And when you were talking about the batch processing, I just remembered that prior to now, if batch processing is not happening on safe, most likely it's going to be an exchange making a batch withdrawals, what we know as batch
Hmm.
withdrawals, which is like one address paying to multiple people, right? So it kind of feels like it has already been in existence, but it's not just open to the public the way we sort of like know it, right? And which is kind of like interesting right now. And on the smart contract aspect that you mentioned, I've tried it out. So what eventually happens is like there's going to be a new type of transaction which is called like type 4, where you're literally calling a smart contract, and then you're literally telling the smart contract, please, I need your template to use on my wallet address to act like a smart contract. So
Mm.
that's where it can now do multiple functions, like you can send different tokens together to different people at the same time, and you can revoke the smart contract access. You can do some other functions of those smart contracts. But yeah, I think those are quite going to be interesting. And on the investigation side that you mentioned, I have some few things here, which is like I think generally when it comes to gas attribution and how we trace through funds, flow of funds in crypto, and then we want to figure out if there's like a change of ownership. There's always the gas attribution aspect where, or if the gas that is being the gas, the receipt or the this wallet address that is our target, if is getting gas from a certain entity or a certain address, then we can still say they are still is still being owned by the same target. But that is going to be less obvious right now because anybody can pay for anybody's gas at this point. And instead of us waiting for us to trace the ether itself, the stable coin or any other token can be used to pay for gas, right? I think
Hmm.
one aspect of that which I don't know yet is if the wallet developers or the wallet solutions themselves would have to enable those functions, or it is like enabled automatically, because I want to believe there should be an instance where you can't really just pay for gas with any token. Maybe like any meme coin, like maybe it has to be like some specific tokens, right? But I think that's one thing. The whole idea of a smart contract is equal to a service address will change
Hmm.
right now, because
Mm.
essentially my wallet can become a smart contract in the next 2 seconds and then acts as a smart contract. That doesn't make it a service wallet. But that,
I see.
yeah, some of those differentiations will have to like be obvious now. And then there's account permissions also, which obviously even increases the attack surface, because if an account is permitted to do certain things on another account, then it means there is more risk involved. And border transaction, as you said, like yeah, those are going to be one of the major issues uh for investigators in the nearest future. But we'll see how it works. We'll definitely see.
Yes, we will. Yeah, I think I need a little upscaling there. So let's see.
Yeah, I think I think
We all do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for listeners out there, I think one of the ways that we can easily help ourselves in this space is using it. I think that has always been my go-to statement when it comes to crypto investigations. If you try to use it, so you would, oh, well, if you try to use the technology, you would understand how it works and all those things. And that's right. I just remember there is one other thing regarding this new upgrade, which is sort of like the exploit that are currently happening on it. So because like you can, for your wallet to become a smart contract wallet, so to speak, you have to call another wallet, essentially, right? Now, there are wallets that, no, there are now codes or smart contracts that are being developed by perpetrators, and what they are doing is they're literally creating something that will call a pop-up, sort of like to upgrade your wallet to become a smart contract wallet. And by
Mhm.
accepting or approving that specific upgrade, you are literally giving them access to withdrawal of your funds. So it's kind of like another level of wallet drainer, so to speak, right? Because
Mhm.
right now, for former wallet drainers, you have to like maybe go to, I don't know, a platform that is asking you to approve, and then you most likely give unlimited approval on a specific token. But right now, like once you approve that wallet upgrade, regardless of whatever token you have in your wallet, they can easily like just withdraw it without having to do anything more. And it's just one click. So we should people should still be very much careful on whatever they approve on chain. If it's I think there still needs to be like a bit of training, a bit of awareness around how Pectra is meant to work, what people should be aware of and things of that nature. But I think yeah, it's a good upgrade, but it also comes with its own risk.
No, certainly. I mean, just last comment on that is I agree, like considering the significance of the upgrade and what it does, particularly to tracers and investigators, I don't see too many people in the community talking about it, which is a little strange. There does seem to be a disconnect with that. So certainly something to speak about more, and yeah, hopefully all of us can learn more about it.
Yeah, maybe everybody's still tracing Bybit funds.
Yeah, that exactly. Yeah, yeah.
All right, I think that's how much we can take today. It's been an interesting conversation. Thank you guys for listening in and listening to us kind of like rant about different things in crypto. And we hope you've been able to get something valuable out of this episode. Yeah, we catch you another time. Peace.